The best salespeople in the world are called doctors because we walk into their office and they go, hey, take off your shirt, put on this little freaking robe, and we do it. Walks in with a rubber glove. Hey, Ben, I'm going to stick this freaking needle in you. And we're like, okay, why do we do that? Because they built up brand trust for sure, but also because when we walk in with a pain, they name the pain. They tell us what our problem is and they diagnose it far better than we could. And that's what creates trust.
From the team at Sales Loop, it's How to Sell More. I'm your host, Mark Drager, and each week I bring you a masterclass to tackle the biggest challenge and to take advantage of the biggest opportunity that we're all facing, and that is how do we generate more revenue? So whether you're a business owner or a marketing professional, I'm here to help you succeed in sales, even if it doesn't come naturally to you. So today we're talking about why your marketing funnel is dead. And to help us explore this topic is Ryan Deiss, the founder and CEO of Scalable.co and digitalmarketer.com. And if you know the name Ryan Deiss, you know because he's been around for, I don't want to say decades, but a very long time. And if you don't know Ryan Deiss, then just know this. Shark Tank star Damon John has said that his companies, Ryan's companies, practically own the internet. That is high praise. Now, a few quick highlights about Ryan before we get into the conversation. First, he is the creator of this methodology called the Customer Value Optimization. And using this methodology and others, he's been able to generate in the last 3 years over $50 million in revenue from 400,000 leads and 70,000 buyers, which is just massive numbers. And as the founder of Traffic and Conversion Summit, which is North America's largest digital marketing conversion conference, Ryan has shared the stage with business titans like Sir Richard Branson and Tim Ferriss and Gary Vaynerchuk. And currently, Ryan's leading his $200 million holding company towards the $1 billion valuation. And on this trip from small to 200 million to a billion, he's sharing his systems, he's sharing his strategies, he's sharing everything about how he goes about it over on Scalable.co and digitalmarketer.com, which between them, they serve 15,000 paid members and 500,000 subscribers. So just massive numbers. And as you're going to hear in this conversation, he holds nothing back. Every question I threw his way, no matter how direct, no matter how tactical, no matter how on point, he gives us the lowdown. So with all that said, I am so excited to share with you the conversation that I had with Ryan Deiss. So Ryan, you of course are known for your background and your extensive experience in digital marketing, in advertising, in getting more people to see brands, to see companies, to come to landing pages and sales pages and ultimately purchase. And I mentioned a little bit of this in the opening. I was looking at one of your recent case studies and you were mentioning that in the last 3 years, you spent over $8 million in ads. You generated close to 400,000 leads. You converted over 70,000 buyers and you generated over $50 million in revenue. So we're not really talking about some small numbers here. These are massive, massive numbers. And if you're listening to this and you're thinking, oh my gosh, like our marketing budget is $25,000 a month. How does one hit these types of levels and not start to have panic attacks, honestly?
Well, in fairness, that was over 3 companies. We've got 17 companies as a whole in our portfolio group. So collectively over the last 12 months, did a little over $200 million in revenue. Like I said, that's broken up over multiple businesses. It's big, but it is a collection of smaller businesses. So I completely understand and relate to that. And look, we didn't start off going out there and spending, a couple $1,000,000 a year on paid advertising. You start small, and when it works, you scale up and you grow. I think the challenge that a lot of small businesses run into, and the reason they struggle with that online advertising or paid media, things like that, is they never get an offer that works because they don't know how to go and start from that point. So they'll just have a business and their business has a website and they'll go, we need to get traffic to our website. We should buy advertising. And then when that advertising doesn't work, they say that advertising doesn't work. In marketing, there are only ever 2 things. There's the offer and the amplifier. Okay, that's it. You got an offer, you need something to amplify that offer. All advertising, Meta ads, Google ads, Facebook, Instagram, you bought an email drop to your buddy's newsletter, fantasy football newsletter list, like whatever. All this is amplification. The question is, what are you amplifying? Where are you sending and directing that traffic? That's your offer. And if that offer doesn't work, if it's not resonating, if it doesn't get the right people to raise their hand and go, ooh, I need this, no form of amplification, no advertising, no marketing at the end of the day is going to work. And so that's where it begins, is just one offer that actually starts to work with a small pocket. And then you optimize it, you scale it, and the next thing you know, you turn around and you're investing a lot. I like to say we invest in advertising, we don't spend it, because we expect a positive return on that investment.
And now, if you were to go one step back, though, of course, there's audience and targeting. And so It's interesting to me that you say that there's offer and amplification. Would you rather tweak the offer and tweak the offer and tweak the offer? Would you rather focus more on the right audience or the tighter audience? Or is it kind of chicken and the egg, one or the other?
Well, it's a great question, because if you would have asked me that question 7+ years ago, I would have said, yeah, do a lot of work on your audience and your targeting. Because the first era, I don't want to sound like the old guy yelling at clouds.
Oh, you've been around this for a while, so you are that old guy.
I've been doing this for friggin' ever. I made my first sale online and started buying online advertising in 1999 when Google was still a science fair project. So yes, I've been doing this for a long time. And when Meta ads, Facebook ads launched in 2006, 2007, it was a massive breakthrough, because what they gave advertisers the ability to do was to hyper target exactly who they wanted. I mean, you could go in the back end of what was then just Facebook. Now it's the Meta ad platform. And you could say, I want to target people who specifically like this thing, but they don't like this thing. And they live in this city and they watch this TV show. And you could get so specific and targeted. Slowly over time, and this always happens in new media, hyper-targeted media becomes more mass media. Now, for a variety of reasons, many of which are privacy-driven, many of which are just Meta wants more money, targeting has largely been taken away from advertisers. And so the idea to say, and this is why so many people who are on the media buy side, they're like, oh yeah, we got all these tricks and hacks to crush it in your Meta ads. The only advantage that we now have as marketers and advertisers is on the messaging side. It's on the offer side. There's very little targeting that can be done. And in fact, a lot of what we're doing is we don't do much targeting, because you can't. And so we go fairly broad with our targeting, and we will actually write in the ad, attention, this person, attention, our ideal client. We'll even say it if it's a video ad, attention, Round Rock, Texas, pet owners, right? Now, you don't have to go to the back end and target that, because you kind of can't. But if you literally tell Meta and Google who it is that you want to reach, they're pretty good at this point. They're leveraging more sophisticated AI tools than we have access to put that ad right in front of exactly the ideal person. So we target through our messaging. We don't target through the back end, through the actual targeting levers that you used to be able to pull. That being said, the big advantage is on the messaging, is on the copy, is on the offer side. That is where it is now. And it's where it always used to be. If you go back to pre-Google, go back to the old ad men. If you ever watched the TV show Mad Men, it was the copywriters. It was the David Ogilvy's of the world. They made the big bucks, drove the fancy cars, lived in the big houses, and went to the banging parties, because all the advantage was on who could craft the best message. The pendulum swung to who could use the tool the best and figure out the algorithm and figure out the targeting. It has now swung back to offer and messaging.
I mean, listen, I own a brand strategy company, so I'm glad we're moving back to the idea of core messaging, offer differentiation, and all of those things. But I bump into business owners, I bump into leaders who have this mentality, we're not good at sales, we're not good at marketing, because there's this idea that a really great salesperson can sell anything to anyone. And if we extend this analogy to what we're talking about with digital marketing, with advertising, there is still this perception out there that if I could just figure out the system and the algorithm and the targeting and the economics, and of course, the tighter you go, the less these systems work these days. And the tighter your targeting is, the more expensive it is, but it's very hard to get the message in front of a lot of people. And so I think that there's this idea out there that somehow 5 or 10 years ago, we could do all of this stuff in marketing, in advertising, in targeting. But it's largely gone today, as you're saying, right?
True.
It says that you can is really overselling, right? Because the systems, they just don't work that way anymore.
They're either lying intentionally or their information is outdated. It's just not how it works anymore. It just isn't. To a certain extent, I wish that it did. But again, as somebody who values messaging and copywriting as a skill and as a craft, And look, that is all because everybody thinks, oh, I can just pull up ChatGPT and it's going to tell me what I need to say. Guess what? Everybody freaking thinks that. And so what you have is essentially commoditization from a targeting perspective, commoditization of a messaging perspective. So if you can actually craft a good, solid messaging, then you will win by default because nobody else even bothered to freaking show up. And the reality is winning on the messaging front isn't as hard as everybody thinks. What great salespeople do is they're crystal clear on who it is that they serve. They're very clear on their ideal client profile, their ICP. They know it. They know these people. And what they're able to do is they're able to articulate the problem that person is facing better than they can. The best salespeople in the world are called doctors, okay? Because we walk into their office and they go, hey, take off your shirt, put on this little freaking robe, and we do it. Walks in with a rubber glove. Hey, Ben, I'm going to stick this freaking needle in you. And we're like, okay, right? Why do we do that? Because they built up brand trust, for sure, but also because when we walk in with a pain, they name the pain. They tell us what our problem is, and they diagnose it far better than we could. And that's what creates trust. And that's what great marketing does. It's what great selling does. It's why great marketing, the best messaging, simply calls out to the problem. I mean, you want to hear what's working today? Here's the simplest thing in the world that's working today. We brainstorm a list of 30 problem statements, 30 problems that our ideal client would state in their own words. And this comes from a collection of just our own research, conversations that we've had with clients and prospects, data that we've gathered from our customer support, from our salespeople. Also, you can go to ChatGPT and say, hey, ChatGPT, act as insert your person here, and give us the biggest problems that you face when trying to accomplish whatever the end result is. It'll give you a bunch of them. If you create a list of 30, we'll then go and run meta ads based on like one ad with just that problem statement in the image. So the entire ad is literally just the problem statement verbatim. No pretty pictures, nothing, just the problem statement. And that is some of our highest converting ads. And we'll run 30 of these, test it. And the one that gets, usually it's 2 or 3 that get an outside percentage of click-throughs. We will turn those into prettier ads, except when we don't. And what is really effective right now? Simply calling out, hey, if you're a this and you have this problem, here's a solution. That works remarkably well right now in advertising. It works in text, image ads, video. It's the message. Like they say to politicians, it's the economy, stupid. I say to business owners, it's the messaging, stupid. But you're not stupid. I love you.
And now, is there a comfort? So we work with a lot of B2B businesses that may have very niche or very small populations. We're running a campaign right now where there's only 14,000 people in a given geography that we're trying to touch. And so we have been very focused with the problems, very focused with the message, but the organization we're working with is a little uncomfortable with others seeing it. And so if you're removing this targeting, if you're saying, hey, Texas manufacturers or Texas well drillers in the oil and gas industry, how do we, or is this just something to embrace, get comfortable, or how do you create the ads in a way that attract the people you want while also not being too worried about the fact that you're going to show this to people who you don't want to target?
Well, I mean, so you are going to show it to people who you don't want to target. You're going to show it to people who don't want to see it because nobody actually woke up this morning and said, ooh, I'd like to see more advertising. Well, I guess one Sunday a year that happens at the Super Bowl, right? Because let's be honest, it's entertaining. It's not really advertising. Yeah. So yes, get comfortable with that. Advertising is inherently interruptive. It just is. Sales is inherently interruptive, but people who are in a state who have a particular issue or challenge, they want to be interrupted. Now so I'm going to give you a mindset thing and then I'll give you a tactical solution. So mindset first. In any given audience segment, we found that there are 3 to 6% of those people, if they're semi-targeted, who are ready, willing, and able to buy something from you now. Now, there's a massive chunk of that group that will buy later at some point.
Dean Jackson,
Dean and I have been talking about this for 20 freaking years.
2 types of customers, those who will buy now and those who will buy later, and that's it.
Yeah, and there are some never people, and they're few and far between, and they look a whole lot like the laters. So there's the nows. And so what a lot of this is just showing up enough that the people who are ready to buy now go, okay, I'm ready now. Now, what we think is it's this binary thing. Either people are excited to see your messaging and they're ready to buy now, or they're not and they're angry. Here's the reality. They don't think about you at all. It is ego from the business owner and the marketer standpoint that says, oh, if I put out this marketing, people aren't ready, they're going to be so mad. No, the opposite of love isn't hate, it's apathy. They're apathetic towards you. They don't care about you at all. They don't think about you at all. Most of the emails that arrive in your inbox, you don't get angry about them. You just do a select all and you archive and you move on with your life. But one of these days, there's going to be an email that pops in that you would have just selected all and archived a couple of weeks ago, but something happened. Conditions were such that you are ready now. And something in that subject line caught your attention, you clicked on it, you opened it, you took action. So show up enough so that when those 3 to 6% are ready now, you get them, because it's a different 3 to 6% every day, every week, every month. So you just have to consistently show up. So that's a mindset, kind of just don't think you're more important than you are, especially from a B2B perspective. Like, come on, you're fine. Like, they're busy. They're going to move on with their lives. The other tactic, though, if you are truly dealing with an addressable market, that's, what'd you say, it was 14,000?
14,000, yeah.
If you're dealing with an addressable market that's 14,000, you might just go with more of an account-based sales and marketing motion where you say, okay, if there's 14,000 total addressable market, can we just build a list? Can we compile a list? Like, whether we hire somebody to do this or we buy the list, or just, heck, I've made my kids just go in there and fill stuff out. I mean, what's the point of having kids if you can't do some child labor, right? And build these lists. And you can now take those lists, add them as a custom audience into Meta and into Google, and advertise to just those people. So I'm a big fan of either very broad targeting, where we target through the messaging, or hyper-specific targeting where it's account-based. And we're saying, no, these are the people that we want to put our message in front of. So let's load those folks up into a custom audience and advertise just to that group. If you're doing that, by the way, and this 14,000, what would an average contract value be for that?
This is for a nonprofit professional association, so they're really just looking to maintain memberships.
Yeah, so you're doing that. You're probably aligning it also with some, I'd be doing some old school direct mail. Maybe you're dropping some of that. I mean, it's a small enough addressable market that you should have a multi-front type deal. And the beautiful thing about that is you can run ads on an impression-based perspective, not a click-through rate, but an impression-based perspective, because you don't care if they click. You just want them to see you.
Right now we have a CPM of $3, which is pretty amazing.
I'm a direct response guy, but I think that one of the worst things that you could do as a business owner is demand that everything be perfectly accountable and perfectly attributable.
Hey there, it's Mark. We are going to get right back to my conversation with Ryan. But first, I just wanted to take a quick moment to share with you how I can help you grow your business. So at Sales Loop, my award-winning B2B branding and marketing agency, we partner with leaders like you, people who are ready to take their business to the next level. Now, the team and I help build out bold, strategic brands that share company stories, that have tighter sales messages, that help set companies apart from their competition, that ultimately helps drive more sales. So as a listener of this podcast, I'm sure by now you've picked up the fact that I am pretty obsessed with helping businesses stand out and sell more. And I just might be able to do that for your company too. So if you have any questions about this or about working with us or any of the strategies we cover off in any of these episodes, I'd love to connect with you. You can find out more about me over on LinkedIn. You can feel free to reach out anytime. And if you'd like to learn more about the work I do day to day with my agency, you can go to salesloopbrand.com. So with that, let's get back to the show. So that was the next thing I was going to ask about in terms of outdated things and things that don't work. So a few things is obviously attribution used to be much simpler and it's much more complex now. And we have to maybe get comfortable letting some of that go. But also there used to be an idea, you drop an ad, they land on a page, they do or they don't, a squeeze page, and then you'll capture their information, you'll follow up once or twice. But I mean, we are seeing really extended sales cycles with 30, 40, 50 touch points in a given cycle with a lot of chaos, let's say. Is this just to be embraced because this is the world we're in, or what are you doing to try and still push people through some kind of funnel or process?
Yeah, the funnel's dead. It's not how it works anymore. And look, I was one of the main people who trumpeted the concept of the 5-step funnel. Like, I was right there. And I announced at my opening keynote at Traffic and Conversion Summit, I think 2021. That's not how this works anymore. People don't need to follow your funnel. They've got options now. I mean, look, there used to be this thing called a phone book. Right? I mean, so we should not be surprised.
AAA towing, right?
Right. Come on. Like, we should not be surprised that these things change. They only always have. Humans don't. Okay. Humans don't change. And what they now have are far more options to engage with brands than they did before. So before, it was a very clean and a very simple funnel because, yeah, you'd fill out a form and they'd send you some stuff in the mail, or you'd pick up the phone and you'd call and you were on whatever pipeline they put you on because there were no other options to engage with that brand. Now they have hundreds of options to engage in ways that you have no control over. And so you could try to push back against that and force everybody through your funnel so that it's more trackable, but your conversion rates are going to get obliterated and just people are going to opt out. They're not going to do that. They're going to go with the people who are willing to sell to them the way that they want to be sold to. I would suggest that what we're now seeing as longer sales cycles have always been the case. We just didn't have any visibility into what was going on in and around the prospect's actions beyond what we were doing. So our piddly, measly data and what we were doing allowed us to operate under the delusion that it was this very clean and simple funnel. I don't think it was ever the case. I don't think it was as, chaotic and multi-touch as it is now because there weren't the different touch points that we have today. But I don't think that it ever was as clean and simple as we perceived it to be. And now all we're doing is getting increased visibility into what always has been.
In your mind, and can you speak to how you look at the difference between brand or content marketing or more inbound organic versus direct response, advertising based, more targeting or more targeted ad spend based marketing? Do you see these lines blurring, or are there still very clear divides between your goals and your objectives and which one is the right one to pull off the shelf?
Branding and direct response is a spectrum. It's on one end of the branding spectrum, you would have just your classic Super Bowl style ads that are way more entertaining than direct response. And on the opposite end, you've got a countdown timer with a act now, or this is going to go away forever and we're going to steal your cat if you don't buy today, right? I mean, so you've got, it is a spectrum. And what's going to be most appropriate is living along that spectrum. If you're only ever in brand mode and you never ask, then you won't get. And if you only ask and you never brand, then your business isn't going to last very long. So I don't like to think about it in terms of branding and direct response. Not that I think those are helpful terms. I don't think there's anything wrong with them, but I think maybe some of the terms to overlay on top of that is any communication that you do is going to make a deposit of relational equity or a withdrawal of relational equity. Some things that you do will make very large deposits of relational equity. Some will make very large withdrawals of relational equity. There's nothing wrong with making a withdrawal as long as you have adequate funds on deposit. And I think that's the mistake. Like, you could have a ton of money at the bank and you can make a massive deposit and you can make a massive withdrawal. And as long as you got enough on deposit, then that's totally fine. If you withdraw more than you got, then that's a problem. And I think that this is the mistake that brands get into, is that they don't think about that. And they don't have this idea of how much do I have on an account in terms of the relational equity with these different prospects? Are we balancing that out? And it differs across industries for what you might need to do. But I think if you put it in that term and not like branding, but more, are we making regular deposits of relational equity? And content marketing is a great way to do that, right? Are we delivering value in advance? Are we giving away some great free stuff that make them think nicely about us? Are we even telling a little bit about us, creating some relational bonding where they know our origin story and they connect with us at a deeper level? So maybe it's not content or value, but it's relational connection. All of these can be deposits of relational equity, and the timing and the extent of the ask should be in proportion to the give. So that's, I think, a more helpful frame, maybe.
That is a great way to visualize it. Now, it does lead me to think, though, whether withdrawal is only an ask or whether friction, frustration, miscommunications, missteps also create tiny withdrawals.
All of those are degradations of relational equity. I haven't thought about it exactly the way that you described it, but yeah, when you drop the ball, you screw something up. When you make a mistake, and look, we've done this. We've had email campaigns where we were building a series and it was supposed to be triggered over X amount of time. And it was only supposed to go to legacy people, and oops, click the wrong button. And next thing, a massive chunk of our list just got 7 emails in their inbox in 2 minutes, and they're pissed off. That's a mistake, right? It's a mistake, but it was absolutely a degradation of relational equity. And what that means is we probably can't follow up the next day and be like, yeah, sorry about just blitzkrieging your freaking inbox. You want to buy this thing? No, And I think we intuit this. Like if you're just a normal freaking human being, you get a sense of it. One of the best things I did is I put my mom on my email list because my mom will be like, the heck? Like, because if your own mother's sick of hearing from you, that's a problem. So I just think
or if she doesn't understand what you're talking about. I mean, that's a problem too, right?
Well, depending on the business, it may not matter because that is one thing I'll tell you. I think a lot of the speaking to dumbing down and speaking to what I want to always speak to my ideal client. And if that means that some people don't understand, I'm actually okay with that. But for the most part, my mom's an intelligent woman and we're not doing anything that complicated, so she can hang in there. I just think, man, just be normal. Just ask yourself, would it be okay if I sent this? I'm only going to send this to one person. That's one thing. You mentioned Dean Jackson. Dean's better at anybody else. You're sending this email. I get it. You're doing a blast or a broadcast. They're receiving it as an individual in their inbox. How's that going to feel? How would you feel if you got it?
Dean makes it look so easy. It's deceiving, actually. He is so good at it that it's deceiving, isn't it?
Dean is brilliant as a human being, but he also is so like down to earth and connected. He can get very philosophical, but he doesn't find tremendous joy in overcomplicating things. His genius is in its simplification, but he also stays connected enough to people and is just a kind and jovial enough person that he just knows how to communicate. And a lot of it's also practice. I think very often when we go to write an email, we get in this different mindset and we're like, okay, I have to craft this email marketing message. Or one of the things that I started doing, I got back in one of our brands, I got back into writing some of the email copy. We had a marketer, they left. So I was like, you know what? I want to do it. I want to see if I still got some chops. And man, I pulled up like HubSpot or ActiveCampaign, whatever, and I go to start to compose it in there. This is hard. I pull up Google Docs and I'm like, this doesn't feel right. So instead what I did is I just pulled up Gmail and I just typed in a subject line. I started writing the email as though I was writing it to one person, and it just came out sounding like a normal freaking email. So if you're struggling to write copy, like email copy and marketing copy, go to a platform where you do normal communication. Go to email, maybe even get out your phone and text it with your thumbs and see how it comes out there. I bet you're going to find it's a lot more effective.
My little hack is I love dictation. So I'll go for a walk and I will dictate a whole bunch of garbage, but somewhere in there is something. And then we can always clean it up later. I think a big challenge.
I respect the heck out of that. When I talk, because I think by talking, it is the most rambly, cluttered mess in the world. Even like the best AI tools are just like, we give up.
Well, I think too many people expect things to be one and done. One of my favorite groups, I love the Beatles. Wow, everyone loves the Beatles. But I've spent a lot of time over the years deep diving into some really specific things. And, Phil Collins in his memoir talks about the fact that he played on George Harrison's solo album, drums, and he got cut from the album because he didn't realize at the time they would do like 8 different versions of a song and then pick the best one. And so I think often, I went to film school. I come from film. I come from marketing. Often I think most people think that you can 1 draft, 2 drafts, and it's great. And yet most really great pieces of work often require quite a bit of work, quite a bit of revisions, a few different angles, a few different takes, a little bit of time. So that's why I like the transcription, because at least it's just the first something.
Yeah. No, I think that's great. I should probably go back and try it again. I think AI tools have gotten better.
Give it a shot. So final question for you. I really do appreciate your time being on the podcast. But last question I like to end with, what would be your number 1 tip or strategy to help those of us listening sell more?
Right now today, we talked about Dean Jackson. So I'm just going to say what I think Dean Jackson would say. You have a list of people probably, right? If you're listening to this, you probably have a list of people. Send a simple 1-line, what he calls a 9-word email out to them saying, hey, are you still interested in whatever goal outcome that they would like to achieve? Sign your name and just leave it at that. Don't make an offer. Try to start a conversation. I really do believe everything old is new and is becoming cool again. As the world is getting more AI-rific, I think people are going to start wanting to engage with actual intelligence a lot more. And if you'll just be willing to engage your audience in conversation when nobody else will, you're going to find that you can get the sale. Nobody else is doing it. Everybody's wanting to rush. Zig when they're zagging. Another great email you could send out is just, hey, especially in B2B, hey, person's name. how can I help company name move faster? Just, hey, person, how can I help company name move faster? I can tell you we've used this in tons of companies. It's so effective because if you're moving slow, you want to move faster. If you're moving fast, you wish you were moving faster. It's a way to basically say, how can I help without coming across like as a know-it-all or making it seem like you're, putting them on the defense. Just, hey, so-and-so, anything I can do to help company name move faster. It is just a magical little email that I've seen work time and time again. So whether you send out the Dean Jackson version, which is the, are you still interested in achieving whatever result they want? Or, hey, can I help company name move faster if you're unsure about what they want? If you will send that out to your list today, you're going to get some people responding. If you'll engage them in conversation, you'll likely get some prospects that'll turn into some deals.
And that was my conversation with Ryan Deiss. I had to give that one a rewatch a few times because there's just so much jammed into it. And I really appreciate Ryan's just willingness to answer all of the many questions that I had. Now, if you'd like to learn more about Ryan and his work, you could head over to digitalmarketer.com, scalable.co. You can go over to YouTube. He has a personal YouTube channel under his name. Digital Marketer releases YouTube videos. He's on all of the social channels. You can find him on LinkedIn. You can find him everywhere. So when I started off the episode by saying that Damon John has described Ryan and his companies as practically owning the internet, I'm not lying. Google his name and you will find great, valuable, tactical, strategic content everywhere. Now, if you're interested in learning about me, I would love that as well. I cannot stand up to what Ryan has put out. If you'd like to learn more about me, feel free to look me up as well. My name is Mark Drager and my details are in the episode show notes. I'd love to connect with you over on LinkedIn. It's where we share a lot of tactics and strategies. And drop me a DM. Now, one last thing. If you are still with me, if you've made it this far into the show, you really should subscribe. And here's why. Each and every week, we share actionable strategies and tips, just like what Ryan shared with us today, to grow your business and to boost sales. So with that, I want to thank you for listening. We're going to wrap up this episode. I am Mark Drager, and I will catch you in the next one.